the guru of Squad 00, the assassin like no other. Yes, I'm the best at what I do. I'm the most notorious in YouTube man in my community. Don't doubt me, please. I'm here to bring y'all an interesting video. And it's a video I'm pretty sure you won't hear from anybody else. Well, there's a few reasons for that. To begin with, before I get into in-depth with this video, the reason why I bring this subject up is because, number one, I hear it a lot. And I won't say it disturbs me, but it does bother me. The reason for that bothering is point number two, is I'm highly invested in research, gaining knowledge, and as well as learning various martial arts. I'm involved with the martial arts, more or less. And point number three being that when things are not factual, when things are completely misunderstood, when things are presented ignorantly, they need to be corrected, pure and simple. Not in a way that's bashing others, but in a way that's corrective towards knowledge, in a way that presents the truth of the matter, okay? Now, in this video, and there are probably others that I can do, but these are 6 commonly, just 6, okay? There's probably 10 or more, but do that another time. These are 6, maybe a part 2, who knows? These are 6 fighting styles that are not understood. They are misunderstood. When I say misunderstood, I mean completely misunderstood. They are not given the credit that they are due. They are viewed not as fighting, and I will clarify why they are fighting as opposed to what is not fighting. See, you must understand fighting, you must understand the martial arts in order to understand the differences between what is an actual fight and what is actually not fighting. Okay? Fighting, martial arts are not simply violence. They are a science, they involve science. It's an actual art, okay, massive skills, and 95% intelligence. This is fighting in the martial arts. This is the truth. In the martial arts, ladies and gentlemen, this is the downfall, and I will say this continually. When you make the martial arts in the sport, this is what you're going to have, and this is why you have the bastardization and vulgarization of the martial arts and a completely different and false interpretation of them. This is why you have sloppy fighting. This is why you have quote-unquote boring fighting. This is why you have garbage quote-unquote champions. Because it is not respected for what it is. And again, this is nothing knocking them being made for entertainment. This is nothing knocking them being professional. I have no problem with that. But it is the perspective in which they're taken, whether it be from boxing, MMA, kickboxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, and others. Now, we're talking about like Greco-Roman. We're not talking about quote-unquote pro wrestling, that nonsense. So any martial art you can think of. And yes, boxing is a martial art for those who don't know. I don't know why. Well, I do know, but discerning that it's a sport and it's different from Taekwondo and Karate, Judo, and others, even kickboxing, it's just false. It's just completely false and ignorant to what the martial arts are. Now, with that being said, martial arts, and one more point I should add before I get in depth with each of these fighting styles. The martial arts are meant for lethal competition. They're meant for deadly competition. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what they do. They are meant for. Now, I'm not saying you're out here just to kill people. It's actually a lot of self-defense. It's discipline and mind, self-control, and other principles you should learn. Evasion. It does involve health, but it's an entire lifestyle. But ladies and gentlemen, it's called the martial arts for a reason. It's meant for warfare. Any form of the martial arts, the real martial arts, is meant for warfare. That involves possibly eye gouging. That involves possibly quote-unquote cheap shots, which don't exist truly on the battlefield because there's no such thing as dirty fighting, and I'll get to that later when I talk about that specific fighting style. There is nothing, anything is admissible in a real fight. That is the difference between what we've made to be sport and actual fighting, okay? And I'm not just simply saying violence, I'm saying actually fighting. Most people don't want to go that route, but this is the reality. If you got to do what you got to do, you have the tools to do what you got to do and do it very effectively. Okay. And for example, the series Holy Land presents the dark side of it. The series Baki, okay, the Baki series presents this. I'm pretty sure Hajime no Ippo kind of sort of goes into that a little bit. Vagabond and other series go into that. Even One Piece goes in that. Even Naruto goes in a bit of that. Toriko and plenty of other series that aren't complete. Dragon Ball series that somewhat are grounded, even still go into the dark side of the martial arts. Okay. Now, what are these 6 fighting styles I'll be presenting? Number 1, technical fighting style. Number 2, street fighting. Number 3, brawling. Brawling, not brawling or something like that from Dragon Ball, but actual brawling. Number 4, freestyle fighting. Number 5, dirty fighting. Number 6, trick fighting. The first point, technical fighting technically isn't a martial art in of itself. It isn't. But it's not, it is a fighting style. It's strange. You can find technical fighting in any martial art because there are certain techniques that are spot on and quote unquote flawless. If you do them perfectly or near perfection, you are a technical fighter. Not just throwing it out there, not just being good, but you are technically sound in what you do. The thing is, prime example of the flaw is it's made to be a boring fight. If you do things technically, it tends to be boring. It's not entertaining, which is another reason why the martial arts are sport. Okay? Floyd Money Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. A lot of people had an issue. I personally loved it because I love the technical schooling that he just schooled Pacquiao. Mayweather did. And people make all the kind of excuses. If you watch it, the entire fight, Floyd gave him a boxing clinic. He showed us. This is technical boxing. This is what nearly a century of professional, or over a century of professional fighting has given us. Arguably the best technical fighter. He's arguably the greatest counterpuncher, arguably the best defensive fighter, and arguably the best technical fighter in boxing history, as well as a fighting genius. And he didn't have to do all that, and he's also older. You have to understand that. So a few elements is gone from him. But his movements, his defensive maneuvers, when he used his jab, his power punches, he fought beautifully technically. And he made Pacquiao, he exposed Pacquiao for the flaws that Pacquiao's been showing for years. The technical fighter makes the other fighter look subpar, look less than yin, even world champions on occasion, if the world champion isn't on point with his own technical aspects. So the technical fighter is one. Now, they can be beat if they're overly technical. That's the problem. If you're too focused on techniques instead of on execution, striking power, movement, reading your opponent. If your IQ is slipping, if your focus is slipping, then you'll lose. Because the technical fighter, what happens is they get too much caught up in a routine a lot of times. Technique isn't supposed to be routine. Technical doesn't mean you become predictable. Okay? It just means that your techniques are so on point that no matter whatever situation arises, you can deal with the situation at hand. That's the problem with young technical fighters, is that they're so ingrained in what they're used to and what's by the book that they don't understand that there's so many other fighting styles that they will face. And many fighters aren't going to come by in the book. So you have to be prepared. You have to be technically sound, but be prepared for when they throw at you. And some of that comes with experience. Some of that comes with just simply fighting IQ, and a few other elements, natural abilities and whatnot. Moving on. So hopefully y'all understand what a technical fighter is. It's one who's technically sound in the various aspects of whichever martial art / fighting style he's involved with. Second one, street fighting. Now, here's the difference. Here's the difference between street fighting and a street fight. A street fight is simply a conflict on the street. You can make it in a back alley. You can meet it outside a bar, club. You can meet it in a parking lot. Pretty much anywhere there's a street. That's a street fight. If, it escalates. Street fight could be unarmed or armed conflict, depending on the situation at hand. And would I include guns? Possibly. Okay, it's quite possible to include guns. Generally, we exclude guns because it's a completely different affair. But those can be street fights as well. It just is a little bit different. We're not going to focus on the gun aspects at this specific moment. We're going to focus on the unarmed conflict, as well as armed conflicts like with blades, knives, stuff you'll see, pool sticks, bats, pipes, stuff of that nature. Okay, tasers, any of those, mace, stuff you'll typically have in an actual fight. Now, with that being said, what street fighting is the martial arts, the actual martial arts adapted to the street environment. Holy Land is a phenomenal example of this. The Baki series delves into this, and is continually delving into this as the series progresses, and as they go outside the underground arena more consistently. Okay, specifically with Holy Land, what do we have here? Even in Vagabond and other series, they kind of deal with this a little bit different. They kind of deal with this, but with Holy Land, what it does beautifully is it adapts, whether it be boxing into street boxing, which is different. It's just like bare knuckle boxing, and I could explain that, but that's an entirely different video, how it's different from actually boxing, but kind of similar thing. Street boxing turns judo and show how lethal it can be. Same thing with wrestling, why wrestling, the problem with wrestling and the flaws in wrestling. Karate and how its flaws and stuff. Boxing the same way. Every martial art and how hard it's actually to utilize what's taught in a gym or dojo and put it out on the street. Okay, street fighting is an entirely different animal because you're often in either very enclosed situations like an alley or like a corner near an edge of a building, kind of an angle or whatever. You're backed into a corner literally, or backed against a wall, or you're in an open area, sometimes in a field, a park or something of that nature, a parking lot, for example, an open plot. These are all street fights. Street fighting, it doesn't matter. It could happen anywhere, kind of thing. And it's depending on the location, which is why I bring up location in my death matches. Depending on the location, it favors one fighting style or another. And a true street fighter has multiple fighting styles, whether through experience, through training that he may have gained in the gym or dojo, and he kind of adapts it. Now, a true street fighter will be able to adapt it to the ring. He will. That's because of the way that they fight. Now, they might have to tweak it a little bit. They might have to learn some different moves, but they can use that. But the quote-unquote trained martial artist may not be able to, at least not at first, because of certain movements and stuff that you're taught ain't gonna work on the streets. Okay, or if you do them and you end up on the pavement, that can hurt like hell. Let me just put it that way. Asphalt, concrete, that stuff can end your life. It can end you seriously messed up. That even if you landed on a ring floor, ain't gonna have the same effect. The defenses are different. The offense is different. Certain flying kicks and stuff you're not really going to be able to use. So you have to go. It's kind of going back to the basics. It forces you to master the basics. That's the beauty of street fighting. If you truly master street fight, I call Kamishiro the protagonist of Holy Land, the Ultimate Street Fighter, because I don't want to spoil, but his master of street boxing, somewhat degree of karate, kickboxing, wrestling, mainly that was his focus. Kickboxing was a little bit, but mainly street boxing, karate, and wrestling, okay? And how he even dealt with kendo, okay? With that being said, Street Fighter is highly adaptable and is put into possibly sometimes seemingly extreme situations and is very prepared for whatever is thrown his way. So street fighting is a very much positive. It's not simply, a guy just coming out and flailing and throwing some crazy and whatever and just luck. It's not luck. It's skills, ladies and gentlemen. It's very much skillful but very much like a technical fighter. You have to be technical to a degree. If you're not technical to a fighter, to a degree, you're not going to become a good street fighter. Okay? Because again, you may be facing armed conflict, unlike what you would have generally in the ring. Now, moving on to the brawler. Now, again, brawling is, well, technically a brawl is like a large conflict and, dudes going at it like that. Brawling is usually seen as someone throwing these pretty much haymakers and stuff. Now, while haymakers are involved in brawling, that's not brawling. Brawling actually is its own fighting style when done properly. See, to be able to actually be a brawler, you'll see for two examples, Mike Tyson, Iron Mike Tyson, and the legend himself, Rocky Marciano. Some may call them sluggers, but they were really brawlers. But you can see that these dudes were truly boxers. There's no doubt about it that these dudes were boxers. Brawling, in boxing, similar but different. A boxer, who can I say is a boxer is more so on the lines of maybe a Sugar Ray Leonard, for example. There's others, but just if you know Sugar Ray Leonard, you can look at him, compare him, and see the differences between his type of fighting and that of Rocky Marciano and Mike Tyson. It's much different. Or even Roberto Duran, Hands of Stone, Roberto Duran, however you want to say it. Very much different. These, it's a lot. The straight punches are there if need be, but it's a lot of hooks, uppercuts, big shots to the body and to the head. It's about power. These are more compacted, stocky fighters. Guys who come straight in, they can move. Don't get it twisted. They may have, look at Tyson, phenomenal defensive footwork, phenomenal defensive skills. And they kind of sort of have to. Hajime no Ippo is an infighter. You see most brawlers are infighters, okay, if you use the boxing reference. But Ippo is a brawler. Takamaru is a brawler. Okay. Definitely Sendo is a brawler. Okay. Sendo Takeshi from the Baki series is a brawler as well. And these dudes are built, send short power shots. Okay. Its focus is on compact hitting. Its focus is on close range, truly close range combat. Its focus isn't on these long range attacks. Now, I'm not saying they can't have mid and long range attacks, but these are generally, again, not guys who are long and lanky like myself, but these are dudes who are gonna come in, and I'm thinking of one friend, gonna come in, moving in, and bang, 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 bang. And while it looks like it's wide hits, and they sometimes do, generally these kind of hits, you wide open, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to get hit, whether in the face or head. So they come in, and it's a lot of hip movement. Boom, coming with these strong combat shots, and it rocks the opponent. The brawler, when he actually knows how to fight, when he has, again, the technical basics, the fundamentals down, generally of boxing, or of some similar format, he can get it done. Sometimes they will use kicking techniques. Again, short, compact movements, not these wide. That's the difference between quote-unquote brawling and an actual brawler. It's short, compact, and generally precise hits. Alright, moving on to not make this video too long. Freestyle fighting, I think I've done a video on it if I'm not mistaken. But pretty much what freestyle fighting is, you got some dudes like, for example, Straw Hat Monkey D. Luffy in One Piece, Kid Buu, and in Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball Z, for those who want to go anime. These two guys are beautiful examples. Pretty much these dudes are highly versatile, highly creative, highly ingenious. I've said before, Goku too, but Goku's a trained martial artist. Luffy invented his own fighting style. Majin Buu seems like he had no formal training either. Freestyle fighting, now Muhammad Ali, while he was technically, he pretty much had freestyle boxing because he incorporated all of his experiences in the martial art, and he became like water. He became highly adaptable. He fighting genius, highly creative, using enemies and that shit. He would punch you from any direction. Blows would come from any ways. Now, the freestyle fighter, the problem with the freestyle fighting is, first of all, if you're not skilled, again, technical, if you're not skilled, you will get wrecked. You will get wrecked because you leave yourself open, and some of the techniques might miss. It's not, I'm not saying they can't have power, but the focus is not on power shots. It's not like the brawler with the short compact. It's sending blows at any way or direction. It's getting the opponent off his pace, off his rhythm, off his tempo, off his timing, and establishing a rhythm of your own by throwing stuff that they can't think about, they can't see. And now you got the opponent wondering where you're gonna go from, where you're gonna come from. It's both defense and offense. The movements are unorthodox, they're eccentric, they're strange. And again, people can view this as brawling, but they don't understand it. This in essence, freestyle fighting is what the martial arts, it embodies the martial arts and art. It is the art of the martial arts, okay? It has some science behind it, but it's the art form. You incorporate pretty much anything to fit your personal style, okay? It's very freestyle, but you also have the technical aspects to back you up. So it's more so very unorthodox, but it has a method to its madness. I probably can explain more in a later video, maybe, if people so decide, or if I think about it. Moving on, dirty fighting. Now, dirty fighting, I don't say I agree with it, but I don't condemn it. I don't damn it. And here's why. Dirty fighting only exists, from my perspective, should only be used when it's imminent threat of life. No holds barred. All bets are off. We throwing them hands for real. It's survival, ladies and gentlemen. It's a death match. There's no games. Anything's legal. Anything, well, not quote unquote legal. There are no rules at that point. The only rule is to survive and win, or at least defend yourself against the opponent, and not go unconscious or anything of that nature. To protect yourself at all costs, in a very literal sense. There is no, way to back you up. Specifically, if you have multiple opponents coming at you in all kinds of ways. Dirty fighting, groin shots for a woman hitting her in the boot, eye gouging, biting, headbutts, bows, knees. Even though bows and knees are using some, anything, using bottles, using any rocks, it doesn't really matter. Taking out people's kneecaps, okay, cutting throats, it doesn't really matter. Hitting people from behind, sneak shots, a lot of things. A lot of people were dissing. It's like, oh, there's no honor. Well, ladies and gentlemen, in a death match, honor doesn't exist. The concept. Now, if you want to bring that into the table, that's your business. I'm not saying just out here killing people. But understand, I'm using a very specific situation, a very specific criteria. Otherwise, I agree, it is dishonorable. Don't be doing cheap shots. If there are rules in place, don't be going against those rules. They're set in place for a reason. But if you're in a situation where it's life or death, there are no rules, and you got to do what you got to do and get the hell out of there, or finish off the opponent. One of the two. It's just that simple. Now, finally, to trick fighting. The realm of the strategists, the people who use the quote-unquote gimmicks. Joseph Jojo Joestar, the fighting genius himself. Usopp from One Piece. I know Joseph is from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Jotaro Kujo, to a lesser degree than Joseph, uses tricks as well. Usopp, a lot of people can't stand Usopp's fighting style, but I understand it completely because of the odds stacked against him and the very fact of how Oda wrote the story with guns and otherwise. Nami from One Piece, and you'll find this in various series, or dudes who use any method to trick the opponent. It's a bunch of strategy games, okay? It's a bunch of mind games. It's a bunch of deception. It's not pretty, it's ugly. It's ugly just like dirty fighting, but in a different sense. It's not your conventional, it's not entertaining, it's very, very, very ill looked down upon, because once again, people don't understand it. People don't understand. These are the people who are severely outmatched, okay, and generally raw power, but probably physical abilities. I mean, look at the opponents that JoJo Joestar. If you read JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, you could see the opponents he faces. Jotaro Kujo against Dio, yeah, against him, severely outmatched. You look at Usopp against pretty much every opponent he faces. Okay, except for Perun, he is pretty much outmatched. You look at Nami, same way. So they got to, and they don't, okay, besides maybe superhuman durability or some other things, I mean, JoJo Joestar is a fighting genius, so he incorporates actual fighting, and it's natural, so it's less apparent with him, but he still uses a lot of tricks, a lot of things, and pulls out a lot of stuff, and you're just like, what? It is comical, almost, and some people, you know, don't appreciate it because they see the comedic side, when in reality, they don't understand the logical application, okay? They don't get it. Like, if I can throw a smoke bomb and, you know, either flee the scene or, you know, evade a death blow from a blade, what you think? I'm going to throw that smoke bomb. If I can do a flashing light, if I can light something on fire, throw some Molotov cocktails or whatever else may be, throw some explosives, you know, fake gunshots, anything that I can use to get the advantage in a fight of that caliber, I'll do it. And especially, you have to understand, strategists aren't generally ones, I'm not saying they can't throw hands, but they're not generally ones who are the physical kind of fighters like that. You see what I'm saying? You compare, for the One Piece fans, compare Usopp and Nami to Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji. Okay, I can't say Shikamaru because I'm trying to think of Naruto, who uses trick fighting. I'm trying to think of other series, but those are the foreign ones that are on the top of my head that use trick fighting the most often. But yeah, man, trick fighting, it's not appreciated. You know, I can get it. You know, this gadget, I think it's very intelligent. It's very resourceful. It's very ingenious. But that's my perspective of the situation, because I appreciate all martial arts. Doesn't matter if it's grappling, which is very technical to begin with, or if it's striking, which I'm a striker and I prefer striking. But I know how to grapple to a degree. I think both are very important to understand. And the more you study the martial arts, indeed, probably more than 10,000 different martial arts and fighting styles, the more you'll begin to adapt and accept, especially if you understand the history. Okay? Like ninjas, shinobi. These are dudes who were well trained, but they had all kinds of tricks and various weapons and tools to fool the opponent, to deceive the opponent. But, you know, this video has gone on long enough, and I think I've given an adequate explanation for the most part. Unexpected one, like, comment, subscribe. Tell me your thoughts on these different ones. If you learned something, that's cool, man. If you don't agree with some of the points I said, bring up legitimate reasons as to why you disagree. Don't just bring a bunch of opinion. Show me factually, show me based off of evidence, show me the things you've come across and maybe you've encountered fights. If you've ever been in situations where you've had to use any or all of these. Generally, people don't use freestyle fighting, so that one's a little bit out of the case. But if you've, you know, watched fighters, if you view things, show me, you know, the applications of what I'm talking about, or disprove these applications to be, you know, not legitimate. But alright, y'all, have a beautiful day, beautiful night. Peace. Till next time.